Powers welcoming you to Dialogue at EPlusTV 6 and a conversation in this program with Mark Gill, who is with us with the Tennessee Federation for Children. This is a different step for us on Dialogue because most of the time we're talking to local authors and folks, and we have not used this format to delve into directly political issues. And this is a departure for us because Mark is involved with the effort to bring school vouchers into Tennessee. Wanted to talk to him because some people consider this an anti-public education approach, and sometimes people that may support this effort may be anti-public education or collective education in their political philosophy. Mark contends that that's not the purpose of all this, that it's an effective way to use state dollars to educate children in the state under certain circumstances. So we wanted to give him an opportunity to put this in context. It has been discussed locally as we've gone through our discussions about the revitalization and restructuring of public education in Jackson, Madison County. Traditionally, our Board of Education is against such proposals as this, and they have their reasons because they consider this, in some ways, taking away from the efforts to go through a collective public education system. We have a significant percentage of our students in Jackson, Madison County that are educated either at home or through private schools. At one time, we had the largest percentage compared to cities similar to us with which we competed at times for industry, like Jonesboro, Arkansas, or Tupelo, Mississippi. That more of our students were not in public education than we saw in those cities. Now, competition for industry is an international thing, and you compete with people you don't even know exist out there in many other states. But wanted to talk to Mark to give him an opportunity to talk about school vouchers and these programs, and to explain why he's involved in that and why he thinks this is should be a considered alternative for public education in some cases in the state of Tennessee. It's good to see you. Is that a fair setting up of this?
It is.
Okay, I wanted to make sure to do it because, like I said, this is kind of a different thing. How did you get involved with this?
About 30 years ago, actually in 1984, I was involved with a business organization, just a Chamber of Commerce kind of thing, that went up on Capitol Hill to try and pass good legislation or assist in passing good legislation. And one of the first things we got involved with was education. And that was a career ladder program Lamar Alexander passed in 1984. And then that wasn't sufficient. The education system did not improve. So then we worked with the McWhirter administration in 1992 in passing the Education Improvement Act. Okay, and then after that, it was the Connect Tennessee with Governor Sundquist and Bredesen. And all the governors of the past 50 years have been the education governor, but our results didn't show it. Okay. In '84, we were 47th, I think, on the NAEP. And in 2010, we were 46th. And something needed to be done more significant, and that's how I got involved. Okay.
So what do you think then, because we have done all these different initiatives, the BEP and other things, we've changed funding formulas, we've attempted to put more money where the students are, all these other things. What is the shortcoming then? What are you seeing then, Mark?
Well, in the past, we did a one-size-fits-all. We did the same changes for the 1st Congressional District, which has really good schools, as we did for inner-city Nashville, which has really bad schools. Okay. And I think what has been focused on, and what I'll give credit to the Haslam administration and to the legislature about, is that they have bifurcated that. They have set up some reforms that fit just for low-performing schools, and those are primarily 5 districts around the state. And school vouchers is one of those prescriptions to deal with that.
Okay. All right. When you say school vouchers, then what are we talking about? How do you describe that to people?
It's very similar to the Hope Scholarship. Very similar to the GI Bill. The parents get a voucher, a scholarship, and that allows the child to go to a private school of their choosing, that private school had to have been approved by the state previously and meet certain circumstances. But it is the parent being allowed to make the choice to take their kid out of a poor performing school and put them into a private school that meets their child's needs.
Okay. Several aspects of this, and let's talk about performing schools. This is not then, this would be attached to schools that are underperforming in Tennessee and to those students.
Districts that are underperforming.
Districts that are underperforming.
That's correct.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
Now, which ones in Tennessee? We're talking about Metro Nashville.
Metro Nashville, Shelby County, Jackson Madison, Knox County, and Hamilton County.
Okay, so these are primarily our more urban areas than others, okay?
Yes.
And then, so if it applies to that district, then would every child in that district have this opportunity, or those that are attending certain schools within those districts?
It begins with the kids who are attending what's called priority schools or bottom 5% schools or failing schools, is the same term. And that is a school that is ranked on their academics to be in the bottom 5% of all the schools in the state. There's 85 of them, and so in a district like, say, in Nashville, we have 15 of those schools. Okay. The kids at those 15 schools will get first priority. To the extent that there are scholarships remaining after that, then kids on free and reduced lunch throughout Nashville, Davidson County system would be able to take advantage of the scholarships. But the priority goes to the kids in those 15 schools.
This has been discussed for many years in Tennessee, but this year has been different, and we're doing this early part of the legislative session, and we want to keep this interview out here. But it has cleared subcommittee.
It has.
For the first time, really. I mean, yes. And so there are changes going on out there, so there's some momentum for this. All right, when people start talking about this, one of the first things that goes up is that this is anti-public education, okay? That this is going to take money and take students from public schools and put them somewhere else.
You know, I would argue just the opposite. What you have found across the nation, and this is not a new program, scholarships, vouchers have been around for 26 years. They're in 24 states. We know what's happened. In every situation where the scholarships have been in for a period of time long enough to measure, the public schools have actually improved. Okay. And part of that is just the fact that they are finally have something that pushed them to get things done. In Metro Nashville, it would take something like this to get them to address the hard issues. Okay.
So the improvement comes because public schools then become more reactive and start trying to compete more effectively?
That's part of it. Part of it is that when the students leave these schools, they don't take all the money with them. So in Metro Nashville, for example, they spend right at $15,000 a year on a student. Okay. The voucher...
Our expenditures are a little over $9, I think, here. Right?
And that probably doesn't include building debt service.
Okay.
So they spend 15. They get 15,000 per student in revenue, if you will, tax money. But the voucher is only about $7,000.
Because it's the state money.
That's correct. Okay. The BEP money. And so they no longer have the expense of educating the child, but they still get $8,000 a year, roughly, of income to come in, or taxes to come in to support their system. So on a per-child basis, spending actually goes up. And around the nation.
Because they continue to retain the local revenue that was there.
That's correct.
Right, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, I can see that. In states where it has been implemented, then, have you seen tangible results from this? I mean, I take it that the objective of what you're trying to do is say, our responsibility is to educate children in Tennessee.
Yes.
Right? And to take money that we're investing in the state of Tennessee and make the best use of that money that we can. And if this becomes an alternative for students out there, why should we not do this, right? Because we're going to invest in them anyway.
It is. But bear in mind that this program goes in conjunction with two of the legs of the stool that came from these reforms. One was the Achievement School District, and that is a state school system that can come into Nashville, Tennessee, and say you got 15 failing schools, we're going to take those failing schools over. And so they have the ability to come in and take those schools, and then they can manage them themselves. They can bring a charter operator in to manage those schools, or hopefully after this session, they will be able to allow those kids to go to voucher schools.
Okay. So the three steps on the stool then, the achievement
school district,
okay, the money,
the charter schools,
charter schools and vouchers.
And that's correct.
That becomes the three.
That's correct.
Mark Gill is with us, and he's with the Tennessee Federation for Children. We're going to continue this conversation. This is Dialogue at EPlusTV 6. Welcome back to Dialogue at EPlusTV 6 and a conversation with Mark Gill. He's with the Tennessee Federation for Children. We're talking about school vouchers, and if you're just joining us, the introduction we got into, many people in the state are opposed to school vouchers, and this is a kind of a departure for us on Dialogue because we've gotten us involved directly in a political issue. Wanted to have Mark give an opportunity to talk about this as he sees this as an investment in education in Tennessee and through a more effective way for some students that are underperforming schools in this state. It is viewed with suspicion by some, opposition by some who consider this a taking of state money and utilizing that for private education, which they think is detrimental to the collective education effort that is underway and has been underway in Tennessee since the late 1800s. So we appreciate this opportunity to talk with Mark. So three things then. Vouchers becomes part of this. The special districts.
Achievement School District, or the ASD.
And then charter schools.
That's correct.
All right. Why is that preferable than continuing to invest through the public education structure?
Well, we've been investing in the public education structure through 30 years worth of reforms. I just named off the 4 major ones. Each of those reforms carried a major tax increase and influx of revenue with it, to totaled about $2.5 billion per year over when we began in 1984. Some of the districts have done extremely well with those funds, but many just let the problem metastasize and haven't gotten any better. Nashville, Tennessee school systems are worse today than they were in 1984 when we started. Okay. And as a resident of Nashville, someone who lives there now, but who moved out of Nashville when my kids got school age, okay, I understand what the problem is. There are very few schools that most people in Nashville that most people would want their kids to go to.
Okay. Why is that? When you look at that, Knox County, Nashville, and you say we've got how many schools in Jackson-Madison County fall into the?
You only have two schools in Jackson-Madison County. Right. In Nashville, only 41 cents out of every education dollar makes it to the classroom. They have 603 administrators. Okay. It is a system that is a bureaucracy, and nothing's going to change it except to threaten its existence, in my opinion. Okay. They are all about the system and not about the child. And we've had some really good superintendents that have been through there, men who have been very accomplished, Dr. Register that just left, and they haven't been able to move the needle. Okay. So it's time for us to stop tolerating having kids' lives wasted. Okay. And if I can share just a quick...
Sure, yeah.
I was in the construction business, retired several years ago. When the construction problems hit, I had a friend several friends that needed work. Helped them get jobs, met one of their daughters who came to the job, 15 years old. She was very bright. And so I said to her mom and dad after about 6 months, she needs to go to college. So she was at Overton High School. Used to be one of the best schools in Nashville. It's literally within a stone's throw of the governor's mansion. Okay. And went and got her college prep courses lined up. She was a B student. She made a 13 on her ACT. So we hired tutors to try and help her. And they came back to us and said her problem is in the elementary school levels. You could probably get her up to an 18 in ACT, but she can never compete in college. Her life is capped off. She now is into a situation in life where her kids are going to end up on welfare most likely. They've been born out of wedlock. And it's a terrible situation. She had the ability to be a doctor or a lawyer.
So you say this is systemic then?
It is systemic, in my opinion.
All right, so how does the voucher program then address that on a scale that would make a difference?
When you look at places like Milwaukee, Wisconsin, what it has done is that it has forced the education system to respond to what the vouchers are doing. They were losing students. They weren't losing revenue, they were actually getting more. Okay. But in the 26 years that it's been involved up there, the public school system has now come up so far that they are exceeding the results in the private schools and in the charter schools. They've made that much progress.
It can be done through a public education structure.
Oh, absolutely.
It just depends on the stimulus then.
It's being done here in Tennessee through lots of local school districts.
Okay, all right.
And we are not about attacking those, nor is our intent for there to be a private takeover of all the schools. Okay. It is to provide relief to those who are falling through the cracks, who cannot get a decent education, who are stuck in bad schools, and then to force the school systems to say, okay, we're going to change. It's not business as usual.
When students, in the states where this has been done, okay, what private schools take these students? Well, I mean, you can't force a school just because I show up with $7,000 in state money to take me. Right?
That's correct. And these are not situations where they're going to go to the elite privates. Okay. In most instances, they're going to go to places like the Jubilee schools in Memphis, which are 9 Catholic schools that are already in the inner cities, or Lighthouse Christian in Nashville, that's in an area that's lower income.
That are designed for inner city work.
That are designed for those kids, to meet them where they are. Many of these kids are 3-4 years behind grade level in math and reading. You can't just take those and drop them into an elite school. They will fail. It will be a disaster. There are schools out there that just meet this market.
So for this to work, then there has to be two. There has to be the voucher, first of all, okay, and then parents that take advantage of that, okay, and then there has to be a school for them that will work with them.
That's correct.
Because if you drop them into some other private school, then they would just wash out, I guess, would be the contention, or it would be the
Yeah.
concern, right?
Yes. I mean, there's some kids that can go to those elite schools, but it's not the majority.
Okay. Where are we now with this legislation then in Tennessee? And we're doing this early part of the legislative session in 2016, because we may continue to show this.
The bill passed the Senate, has already passed the Senate.
Okay.
It has passed House Education Sub and House Education Full, and it has passed Governmental Operations.
Okay.
Last week it
is
passed.
the expectation is it will clear this year? The governor will sign this if it clears, right?
Oh, yeah, this is a bill that Governor Haslam originally proposed.
Okay.
And he is still very supportive of it. It's a hard fight. You have the educational industrial complex is threatened by it, and the Tennessee School Board Association is using taxpayer money to go up there and try and kill this bill, as is the Tennessee Organization of School Superintendents.
Okay. And I would think TA would be against that as well.
TA,
right?
yeah, I think that's a given.
Given it, so
Yes.
got that. All right.
Yeah.
All right, potentially, how many children could utilize this program?
In the first year, up to 5,000, and it will grow over a period of 5 years up to 20,000. Okay. Is what the available scholarships are.
Okay. In your heart, then, the end result of this would be, if you could draw that up, would be what? You've got 15 schools in I mean, it looks like, 5,000 would be a drop in the bucket if you're looking at 5 counties and I would take it hundreds and hundreds of students.
It is dropping the bucket. It is dropping the bucket. But what it has done in the past in other areas, Florida being a great example, Indiana, okay. Louisiana, North Carolina, Alabama, what it has done is it has helped to break down the bureaucracies and the intransigence of many of the school systems around the state. What I would hope would happen would be that you would see in Memphis and Nashville what you are already seeing here in Jackson to some extent with the Vision 2020. Okay. You have a school board that has said, I think, I've met with them, and my sense is that they've said, it's not business as usual. We are going to educate our kids. But in so many of these counties, like in Davidson County, people move. They have school choice for the people who can afford it. Right. They're leaving the county.
Yeah.
And they're going to other systems.
Well, we've seen the same thing here. Mm-hmm. Huge growth in Medina, areas, communities that are joining us. Huge growth as people have left this county. All right, we'll see. Mark Gill is with us, Tennessee Federation for Children. And we're going to continue this conversation. It's focused on school vouchers, but it gets into that entire discussion of what you do with public money and education in the state of Tennessee, as you are all across this country. We'll continue this in just a moment. Dialogue here at EPlusTV 6. Welcome back to Dialogue at EPlusTV 6, continuing a conversation with Mark Gill, the Tennessee Federation for Children. The organization is pushing the school voucher program in Tennessee. We want an opportunity to talk to Mark to kind of clarify his motivation and the motivation for those that are doing this in this state, because it is highly controversial. It is opposed many times by boards of education. It has been opposed here because it's considered an effort to take children out of the system and the money that goes with them. And putting them in other places where the feeling is that we can make efforts here to educate the children in Jackson and Madison County. And so it's complicated at times. What I sense from you is that this is not a replacement for public education. What you hope to do is that it will stimulate public education. I don't know that everyone that does what you do has that intent, but what I hear from you is that if Overton High School could get back to where it used to be, then mission accomplished.
Absolutely.
Okay.
30 years ago, the Career Ladder program that Governor Alexander passed, it passed by one vote in 1984. All the people who had gone up there and said, let's do this, were just elated. We're finally going to do something to fix education. But it didn't. Okay. And then with the McWhorter reforms and all the others,
BP,
and it just didn't work. We are seeing with the latest reforms that really shake up public education, we're seeing change come. Tennessee is now making progress for the first time.
Is the Achievement District working? Are these schools doing better?
Well, the Achievement District has taken over 29 of the schools,
right.
2 of them in Nashville and 27 in Memphis. That alone took 4,500 kids in Memphis out of failing schools. And I think most of the people don't really appreciate what a failing school looks like. Brick Church Middle School in Nashville, Tennessee, which you can see from the north side of the Capitol if you know where to look, only 8.7% of its students were proficient in math. Okay. You just think about that. That's staggering. We have of high schools that average a 14.5% composite ATC score. I am told that you can get a 12 just by doing all A's on the ACT. Okay. So these are schools that are seriously underwater. This isn't something you're just going to be able to go in and change a few things here and fix it. They are really in tough shape. But the charter schools, the ASD schools, and then the existing schools, the Jubilee schools, the Catholic schools, they are already performing for those kids, but they're having to raise $25,000 a day to keep those 1,600 kids in that school. And they got 1,000 empty seats that they could take off of what I call the juvenile reform track that they're on right now and could put them onto the college prep track.
Okay. When I talk to people that are involved in education, I don't care if it's TA, school board association, whatever, when we all start talking, it sounds like we're all trying to accomplish the same thing. We have extremely different approaches to it, philosophical, everything else. You can get accused of racial identification in your identification of schools and other things. I mean, all kinds of attacks that can be made out there. And so I guess I wonder, are you confident we can break through this morass out here and just say, hey, they're children at the end of this discussion, right? And that's what we're trying to get to here.
I think the difference between our approach and the Tennessee School Board Association's approach, for example, is that they're about the system. Okay. I ask some of these folks very pointedly, you've got a kid in one of these bad schools, named it, he's already in trouble with the law, grades are going down. Next August when school opens, what are you going to do for them? And they name off these structural changes, where we're doing this, and this curriculum, we're doing this. And I said, no, what are you going to do for him? I asked them 3 times, they never would answer. And the answer could have been, they could be in a Jubilee school next August. Okay. But they are all about the system. And I'll take I think that when you go to talk to people, there are many school board members across the state who are really good. They aren't so much the part of the problem, I think, as the Tennessee School Board Association and the Tennessee Organization of School Superintendents. Those are taxpayer-funded bureaucracies that are no accountability to the legislature or any of the elected officials, and self-preservation seems to me to be their primary objective.
Okay. All right. As an organization?
Yes.
Not as far as the individual members of that. Well, I guess it leaves me at a loss in a sense. Mark, it's always been one of the perplexing things here because, like I said, the intention is, the state of Tennessee is not investing money, taxpayers are not paying money for some child to be abandoned out here or to not be able to do math or not be able to read. And yet getting to that child and working something out seems to be the real challenge out there. It has been. And so we will see where it goes here. In your heart of hearts then, if we get 5,000 students in this state that plug into this, then what do you hope to see?
I think what we'll see is more new school boards like what Jackson-Madison County did a couple of years ago, where they put new, fresh people on the school boards. They start doing the really hard decisions. I mean, as Vision 2020 was a hard thing to do, and there has to be some real motivation to get those things done. I think the competition, I think the ASD's ability to come in and say, you failed, we're taking over this school. I think all of those things drive the school boards to make the hard decisions that are in the kids' best interest.
The state of Tennessee's effort now in taking over these schools and everything, is it being successful as far as what you see? I mean, I can see, because like you say, to make this work, the child that has the voucher has to have a place to go that will work for that child. Right. Not every private school would work for them or be a fit for them. And so it's all these loose parts out here. But you feel like this effort, the things that you're seeing now are better than they have been.
The 2 legs of the stool that are in place, the Achievement School District and the charter schools that are in place, are already showing really positive results. Tennessee, for the first time, cracked in the 20s on the NAEP scores, I think in math. Okay. We've always been in the 40s. So we're already seeing progress made out of it. But the problem is just like with Governor Alexander's career ladder, the bureaucracy comes in, and long after Alexander's gone, they're trying to change that to get it back to something that's not so difficult, that's not so much accountability, that's not so much make the hard decisions. And so the charter schools and the vouchers provide outside the system that can't be reached, that sort of push the issue and have in other states.
We've been doing an odd thing too with Common Core, standards and everything else, and all the political whatever that got into, you know, which seemed to have a life of its own out there. So I don't, for some reason, education seems to catch all of our experimentation out there. Does it stop at 5,000 or 20,000? Some of the concern is that, you know, what Mark's doing, he's getting his foot under the, like the elephant, he's getting his foot under the tent here. Next thing I know, this is going to be the education approach in this state.
Well, if you look at the 26 years of what's going on, Florida now has had a strong program for the last 15 years. It's had tremendous results. And they've got 3 million students and they have 55,000 kids.
Okay.
At no place do I know of where the vouchers have become a majority of the education. And it is most always centered in the areas with the lower performing schools, mostly in urban areas.
Okay, all right. Mark's pleasure to have this opportunity to talk with you.
Thank you. I appreciate
the opportunity to talk with you. Mark Gill with the Tennessee Federation for Children. It's, you know, we got into public education in Jackson-Madison County in the 1880s, and there was a lot of dialogue then about taking money from one man to educate somebody else's children because we had private academies here. It's an ongoing discussion. I think all of our hearts are hopefully in the right place, trying to get something done for the children of the state of Tennessee. We want to be the best. Mark, a pleasure.
Thank you, Steve.
Thank you for being with us. Stay with us here at EPlusTV 6. This is the place where the dialogue continues.